Between the hours of noon and 4 is when sunshine is the most intense and therefore the most likely to lead to skin cancer, like what Kurt Schilling's wife went through. We are officially in the Sunday of summer, as a great many teachers describe it. It's the last month before school, the new school year begins. I happen to know a couple of teachers who post about that, but that's beside the point. Anyway, that brings me to today's article from The Atlantic titled American Summers Are Starting to Feel Like Winter. Extreme Weather is Keeping More People Stuck Inside by Yasmin Tyag. I can relate because right now, as I record this, we have the air conditioning on because of the heat advisory. I can only think of a couple days where we actually had the air conditioning off. But before we get into all of that, be sure to give this video a like. Comment what you think about all of this, whether you think that the extremes of the weather are driving people to stay indoors one way or another. Me personally, I would much rather have made the day trip into Boston that I had last Sunday of last week, that is, on a day like with this kind of weather, rather than in the winter. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoy it and subscribe to Zillennial Nexus, daily cultural commentary from a man caught between generations. Let's get into the article. Americans have a long history of enduring heat waves by going outside. In a 1998 for The New Yorker, the author Arthur Miller described urbanites' Depression-era coping mechanisms. People caught the breeze on open-air trails, climbed onto the back of ice trucks, and flocked to the beach. In the evenings, they slept in parks or dragged their mattresses onto fire escapes. But since air conditioning went mainstream in the 1960s, the easiest way to beat the heat has been by staying indoors, at home, the office, the mall, where cool air is a constant and blinds are often drawn to prevent homes from overheating and electric bills from skyrocketing. For this convenience, Americans sacrifice the benefits of sunshine and the opportunities for fun it creates. As climate change turns up the temperature, summers in America are coming down to a choice between enduring the heat and avoiding it, both of which might, in their own ways, be making people sick. Yeah, my advice would be drink plenty of water. And I speak from experience as someone who drank way less water than he probably should have during that day trip into Boston. Yeah, this actually reminds me of something a friend of mine wrote for our middle school newsletter, where he said instead of contributing to carbon emissions by running the air conditioning, you should go to the beach or something. Which, quite frankly, I think is not a bad idea. Of course, most people in middle America can't get to a beach that easily. I don't know if the sea breeze effect really applies to, say, a lake or a pond. But I can tell you right now, that's not a bad idea. The beach. The problem is it gets overcrowded. And also, at a certain point, you want to have air conditioning for a private space so you don't have to worry as much. So, for example, you can go to a movie theater to go see a movie and use that to get some air conditioning for a prolonged period of time. The problem is, one, it can be costly, and two, they might not have a movie you want to see. Now, again, we have air conditioning here at home, so I'm not really all that worried. But I'll definitely keep the beach thing in mind for if it gets past 80 and my dad decides we're not running the air conditioning. I trust his judgment for when it'll actually be practical and such. So I'm just going to leave it there and get back to the article. In cities across the country, summers are, on average, 2.6 degrees hotter than they were some 50 years ago. In Phoenix, where a 95-degree day is a relief, schedules are arranged around the darkness. Jeffrey Gibson, an accountant who works from home, takes his 8-month-old daughter out for walks before 6:30 a.m. After that, it's so hot that she flushes bright red if they venture outside. He spends the rest of his day indoors unless leaving is absolutely necessary. It's like this from April to October. Gibson recently told his wife, "Man, I think I'm a little depressed." Well, you are reducing your time in daylight. But hey, I'm guilty of this myself. Most days I just do about a half hour time to walk on Apple Fitness Plus from my watch. This morning I skipped it, but that's beside the point. The point is, yes, more sunlight will increase your mood. It'll help make your mood better. Now, maybe you don't have to go outside, but you can at least look outside a window. Comment if you think that'll have the same effect. I'm pretty sure that there's probably going to be some difference, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's kind of obvious. But at the same time, you gotta keep the. If you spend too much time out there, then you run the risk of overheating. Getting back to the article, Joseph A. Von Iser, a therapist in Tucson, Arizona, told me that feeling low in the summer comes up with a lot of his clients. Some feel that the heat affects them directly. Others struggle with its indirect effects, such as fewer opportunities to socialize and be somewhere other than home or the office. All of them, he suspects, might be experiencing seasonal affective disorder. The DSM-5 categorizes SAD as a type of major depression with a seasonal pattern, with symptoms such as sadness, feelings of worthlessness, and low energy. Usually, it presents in the winter, though scientists don't agree on why. Some suspect that it's because a lack of sun exposure may contribute to decreased levels of serotonin, a hormone that regulates mood, as well as vitamin D, which helps stimulate serotonin activity. Another theory links low exposure to sunlight with unusually high levels of melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate sleep. Now, I'm no doctor, but if I had to guess, the fact that people aren't getting as much sunlight means that they aren't getting the necessary stuff that they need, and the melatonin is probably increasing because a darker environment inevitably leads to being more tired because you're not getting the same level of light stimulation. There are certain lamps that recreate the blue light that the sun gives off, or whatever is in the sunlight rays. Again, I'm no doctor or scientist, but I do know that there are special lamps for this, for mostly for people in the Nordic regions when the sun is gone for almost the entire day. Anyway, getting back to the article. Summer sad is generally accepted as a variety of the disorder, but it's much rarer than the winter form. One study from earlier this year puts its prevalence at about 0.6%. That makes summer sad especially hard to study. It's clearly a different kind of illness, Paul Desson, a psychiatry professor at Yale, told me, but it's not in their imagination. Unlike the winter form, which comes with a tendency to overeat, oversleep, and withdraw from society, summer sad involves reduced appetite, insomnia, and restlessness, all of which can also be effects of heat. Scientific literature shows that heat is associated with mood disorders, anxiety, aggression, and reduced cognitive abilities. Uncomfortably hot nights, longer periods of daylight, and extended stretches of time spent indoors all disrupt sleep, which can in turn fuel mood disorders. Amruta Nori Sarma, an environmental health professor at Harvard, told me, extreme heat can also be an obstacle to exercising, spending time in nature, and socializing, all of which can make people feel good and also double as important coping mechanisms for emotional distress. Guilty, Your Honor. I have a tendency to stay indoors because that's in recently the last couple of days where I put in 32 hours of Breath of the Wild over the course of 4 days. I am guilty of this. The only reason I don't think I have summer sad is because I didn't have reduced appetite. I slept pretty well each night, all things considered, especially considering I played up until 11 o'clock every single night, and then that was my cutoff point. That's where I decided, nope, this is too much. Restlessness, I don't know, so I'm pretty sure I don't have summer sad, but talk to a professional about this, not me. But yeah, it is true that extreme heat makes people not want to go outside, just like extreme cold makes people not want to go outside, though. I think people will more likely take extreme heat because there's still some level of opportunity. Whereas extreme cold, I feel like that keeps people in the house way more often. Some that I know argue that they prefer the extreme cold because they can at least bundle up to counteract it, whereas you can't really do that with extreme heat. Because you can go down to the bare minimum that is of clothing that is acceptable for going out and still struggle with the heat. Whereas with the cold, again, you can at least bundle up. You let me know in the comments which one you prefer. I lean more towards the extreme heat because, again, I'd rather have gone out with it being 80 plus degrees for my day trip into Boston compared to if it had been at the opposite end at like 40 degrees or so. Luckily, it was actually about 80 degrees on my day trip out there on Halloween. But I digress. Let's get back to the article. Taking comfort in air conditioning when it's too hot out is a natural human response, but air conditioned spaces can be stifling in their own way. Staying home where it's cool also means socializing less. Some offices and homes hardly let in a wink of sunlight all day. It's plausible that in the summer, people experience sad symptoms not only from excessive heat, but also because they spend all of their time avoiding the sun. Kim Meidenbauer, a psychology professor at Washington State University, told me. It does make sense to me that when you'd have potentially an analogous pattern of effects to winter sad, she said. The link between indoor time and summer sad hasn't been studied, but plenty of Americans, even if they don't meet the DSM 5 criteria, are noticing that summer is starting to feel a lot like winter. Reddit abounds with users who lament that being forced indoors by the heat gives them summer depression. This is not advice, this is simply what I've done, at least on the days where we weren't running the air conditioning, but it was still a little warm for my taste. I brought up the blinds and let in the sunlight. And I opened the window to circulate air, and I was able to look outside at the daylight. So at least I was able to do that. I get needing to bring down the shades for the sake of, what is it? Darkening the room so that the air conditioning has more of an effect. But you know what might not be a bad idea? Just stepping outside. According to my iPhone's health app, adults need at least 20 minutes of outdoor time every single day. So I would say what I like to do is get that minimum 20 minutes in there, and then you've got what you need for the day. Now, it's a different thing for like prolonged socialization. Not that there's much to do outside, because like Rudyard Lynch said, outside is a parking lot. Look, like I observed at Adult Night at the museum and the Boston Common, people aren't really approachable anymore because most of the time everyone is out in pairs or groups. Very few people are just out there on their own. Like the guy I talked to at the train station. At the train station, I actually just remembered, I was literally the only lone person there. Everyone else was in at least groups of at least two. That's a topic for another day. Getting back to the article. America's summer quandary, suffer inside or out, will become only more persistent as climate change intensifies. In the United States, heat waves have grown more frequent and intense every decade since the 1960s. During a single heat wave last month, people in 29 states were warned to stay inside to avoid dangerously high temperatures. All of the experts I spoke with expressed concerns about the impacts of escalating heat on mental health. I am not optimistic. Ayman Fanau, a psychiatry professor at the University of Arizona, told me, noting that heat also has a well-established link with self-deletion risk and can exacerbate mental health conditions such as schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, and substance abuse. Many Americans don't have access to air conditioning, or they work jobs that require them to be outside in the heat. Those who can stay cool inside may avoid the most severe consequences, but still end up miserable for half the year. It's probably why shows like Cobra Kai and the white collar class tend to dunk on the blue collar jobs, and why they try to funnel everyone through college to get them into white collar work so that they can sit in air conditioned offices instead of having to expose themselves to the heat. This is assuming that they all have that's assuming they all have air conditioning in some capacity. That being said, I respect all the blue collar workers who go out in the extreme heat to take care of that business and get things done, to actually build things. Again, my pro tip, stay hydrated. This is exactly why I'm thinking I need to start bringing a water bottle when I leave the house. Hey, pretty much everyone I saw in Boston had one, so maybe it's more than just a trend. As long as summer sad remains poorly understood, the options for addressing it will be limited. Treatment for winter sad usually involves exposure to light boxes that mimic sunlight, but these aren't recommended for summer sad because it might have a different neurobiological basis, Fanau said. For now, the first line treatments are SSRIs such as Prozac, which can make people even more sensitive to heat. Seems kind of paradoxical. For those with the means, the best strategy for beating summer sad might be to move somewhere cooler. After 8 years in Phoenix, Gibson has had enough of hiding from the heat for 6 months at a time, and is ready to leave behind what he believes is his own summer sad. Later this year, he plans to move his family to Colorado, where he hopes to be able to bring his daughter out during daylight hours. Yet Colorado summers, too, are becoming uncomfortably hot. And the same goes around the country. Last month, Alaska issued its first ever heat advisory. As summer temperatures continue to rise, perhaps Americans will start to look back with envy on the ways our forebears beat the heat. The hotter summer nights get, the more sleeping on the fire escape starts to sound like a luxury. Look, most parts of the world, there's still some level of summer weather. There's always going to be some kind of heat advisory somewhere, except for Alaska up until when was it its first ever heat advisory? Last month, or like Alaska up until last month. There's always going to be a warm part of the year. There are going to be extremes in either way, either direction. You have to pick your poison and you have to adapt where needed. So, what I like to do is I like to go out first thing in the morning, whether it's doing a time to walk or you don't even have to go for a walk. You can just step outside, look at the sky and the surroundings for at least 20 minutes. According to the Apple Health app, that's what an adult needs. Children need a solid 2 hours. If not then after it, because as I learned from Curt Schilling's Fun Out of the Sun back in 2008, it was this program he did for different places in Boston because of his wife's skin cancer. Basically, between the hours of noon and 4 is when sunshine is the most intense and therefore the most likely to lead to skin cancer, like what Curt Schilling's wife went through. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here for the video. You let me know in the comments down below what you think about all this. Do you think this is all just fear-mongering and it's best to just stay hydrated in extreme heat or bundled up in extreme cold? Or do you think that this is just the natural reaction to the extremes in either direction? Spring and autumn are probably the best times to go out and do things because those temperatures are a little less extreme. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for daily videos of cultural commentary from a man caught between generations. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.